Iron Stories, Episode 30, Reflections. Welcome back to another episode of Iron Stories. In the last episode, or in the last few episodes, we ventured into the Holfest Barrow, the whole last resting place of San the Bloodied and his men. And they went there because of a quest or a vow that they have had for Nesana, a firstborn, to find her silver sword that she lent to Kaivan, something that happened way back. And they managed to do so, and they found out quite a lot of things, what might be threatening the whole world in the end, or at least their region, as they would know for now, about this iron corruption that is plaguing the lands. And then they had to flee. And as always, as it seems with Jebran and Katania, something collapses on them, either a mine or a forest. But now this time it's a barrow or a tomb, so to speak. But they managed to do so, and they managed to then part ways with Nesana, their firstborn. And Katania got a silver dagger from Nesana to keep as a sort of payment, sort of reward for their help in this endeavor. But they didn't. Katania tried to forge a bond with her, but seems that it's not yet time yet for the firstborn to truly trust into these Ironlanders. And so they're now at the border of the dark forest that they left for now. That they stumbled upon so many episodes before, when they were originally trying to get to Whitewood, a small village, to find some more work, but got quite sidetracked, so to speak. So they're here now, looking what might be coming or what comes ahead of them. And they are starting up, I think, the whole thing with they walk a bit away from the forests, just to get them basically to get away from that memory. So they just want to, or Katania and Jebran at least just want to get this whole chapter behind them and move on at some point, but a bit for the moment, maybe a bit aimlessly or without real purpose. I think at least in Jebran's mind, a bit of uncertainty begins to form, and they walk maybe for 1 to 2 hours to the direction that Nesana showed them, where they could find their village, and they make camp at a seemingly safe place. It is maybe a bit open to all sides, which is not something that's Jebran comfortable of, because there's of course multiple attack places or spaces. So but it's as good as a place as any. The space that they are in is basically just a plain field, and they just left the forest behind them, so there's maybe also a bit of relief here to be now in this space where it's open and not so constricted and maybe dark as it was in the forest, and they can see at least for once the stars above them as they make camp here, which is was a rare view where they were just leaving. So that's for sure. So it also helps them to a bit in their sanity, I would say, or in their stress to at least to make camp here. I would say Jebran goes ahead here and does that role for the group to see how well it goes. And that is a good start. A strong hit here from Jebran, which is not so bad. I guess somewhat like the free space here gives them a bit more relief here, so they can relax here quite a bit, which also helps them to get back the spirits that they need. Katania is also probably I would say a bit trying to take a focus on what happened here. She also is looking at the dagger that she got, and this beautifully made dagger that has this very special sheen on it. I mean, she's accustomed to her dagger, her iron dagger that she also tries to keep clean, etc. To that it shines a bit, but it seems that this silver dagger even has a bit more of a maybe more special kind of shine on it, and she's very intrigued on it. And like the handle that is carved out of wood is very beautifully made. There's like intricate things, like not runes but like symbols or kind of symbols that she doesn't really recognize that are beautifully made and carved into the handle. There's like where normally there is like some sort of leather or something like that that is wound over the handle to not make it slip. It seems to be that there's like some sort of, it's still all carved in wood, but it seems to be like some sort of wine that is winding up all the handle to give it a better grip. And she's looking at that and focusing a bit on that. And the as I said, the silver is giving her the restful pause that she needs. It seems also a bit that the voices that she hears from the spirits and from her keen dagger, they're still there. They're not kept away. There's just they seem to be more calm, maybe a bit more distant and not so intrusive into her. Maybe they're also giving her a bit of a space just from the stress that she had within the tomb, fighting against the darkness. But for the moment, it seems also to help her calm down quite a bit. Jebran does a bit similar things. In his mind, he's also already preparing for the next day. Now that he can see maybe with the stars, etc., he also is able again to maybe make sense of where they actually are, and to make sense on where they have to go next to get to Whitewood. Finally, after they have detoured so dramatically, which to some parties maybe his fault, as I think it was his fault that he fall into the river on the way, and on the first way to here, or to Whitewood. So it's just a bit focusing on that, or preparing for that. And he's also trying to relax on the fire as he is looking under the stars to find out where they are, to navigate a bit. He's also contemplating a bit, relaxing a bit as he sees the stars. As I said, it's like it has been a couple of days. They have been in this very maybe even claustrophobic space within the forest, where it's just like where the trees have just kept all the light, or most of the light, out of from the forest. There was this darkness. They were mostly underground during the whole thing, within the Holdfast Barrow, where I couldn't see here. You can also breathe a bit deeper to breathe in maybe a lot of fresh air, something that he was missing for a few days. It's like something you find out that you really liked something after you miss it for some time. So it's kind of that feelings of, oh, finally, I didn't know how much I loved having like fresh air. You just think about it. You don't necessarily think about it specifically. It's just there, and it's just there for you, and you don't appreciate it until you don't have it for a few days. You appreciate it a bit more. So yeah, they made a little fire where they maybe even start to roast some of, or heat up some of their supplies that they have to eat. And I think even for some of the boars that I think they got from their last place, what was it, Thornfields? I think they can use that a bit. And Jebran is also a bit contemplating, maybe like reflect a bit on what he experienced here, and he's the one that is also searching for fortune. So he's the fortune hunter. So he's the one that given his age, he's the one that is trying to make a living, to get a bit of some gold, or not gold, to some to come into some money, so to speak. There isn't really money around here in these lands, but it is more the to have some sort of wealth to live the rest of his life a bit more comfortable. As I said, he is a bit older, and so he's of course thinking about that at some point. He's taking out his little pouch where he put in the pieces of iron that he got. So it's like when he gets paid in a more substantial way, it's something that's yeah. So he's the way the most important thing that's used in this land is iron. So pieces of iron are a way of universal money, maybe more or less. So normally there is a barter and exchange of goods, so one thing for the other. So that's why they got not really paid in Thornfields, but they got like they got their worth of food of this boar. So that's also some sort of payment, but you might not get what you want from the board, because it's not something that maybe is sought after just when you need something specifically. So that's when having some form of payment that is an universal, like we did at one point as well in our society, when we did go from the pure exchange of goods to gold, and then from then on to our current monies, our fiat money, but it's basically a similar thing here, that the iron, because it holds such a high place in society, or in the society of the Ironlands, that having pieces of iron is what could be construed as some sort of money, and it has a high value because you can forge weapons out of it, you can forge tools out of it. So that's something that's very valuable, just to live specifically in this land. So that's why it has some intrinsic value. So long story short, so he's taking out his pouch where he has some pieces of iron in it that they got from previous jobs, or from Lost Crag, where they also got paid a bit for that, and so that's and he's contemplating and reflecting a bit on these pieces of iron, what he experienced in the tomb, where they also found a huge cache, where they found a huge vault, even with gold, which is maybe a more rare currency, but it's not really used as a direct currency. It's just like a luxury thing, because gold isn't that good of a material to make weapons of, or tools with. It's more of a status symbol. But I would say there was also a large cache of iron there. So, and jewels, etc., which is maybe more of a spiritual thing, maybe that's accompanying them. But that's where he the first time experienced this form of greed coming or surging through him, that was also something that at that moment it was a thing that he never specifically had before. It's something that overcome him, this form of greed, which so in retrospect maybe makes him a little bit fearful on what he had become at that point in time. And he's contemplating and reflecting a bit on the pieces of iron that he has here, and he's thinking, okay, what does this mean? What they've learned about the iron corruption, what does this mean for him specifically, when he looks at these pieces of iron, it's at some point it is a representation of on what is bad. It's specifically a representation of what caused the problem, what caused the issue. Is this iron, the iron itself that has this power, and again this greed that he felt. And he also thinks about it. Okay, what does this mean? What does an iron vow then mean? When a vow that has been sworn on a piece of iron, that's like the symbol in the Ironlands that says, well, I will keep my promise or else. What does this then mean specifically with the iron corruption? Is maybe the iron corruption what causes maybe this backlash when you are not fulfilling your vow? Is this maybe fueling it? Is this maybe part of it? Why it is that there is even this backlash on a more spiritual level, on a more mystical level, maybe. So he's also been reflecting on that as he's, and maybe he's sharing some of it to Katania as well. There specifically maybe the things where he's unsure when it comes to what does it mean swearing an iron vow on something that is inherently corrupted. So there's this maybe a more philosophical question to ask here, which both of them probably don't have an answer for now. But when it comes to like, as you know, or as you might think, from his stature and from his maybe background, he keeps all the things about being fearful, about the greed that he experienced, etc. He probably keeps that away from Katania as well. It's just that he's just reflecting into that, and he I would say he takes maybe the first watch, and he stares a bit more under his pieces of iron that he has, and puts at some point and puts them back into his pouch. And I think for the moment he's thinking to himself, well, there isn't probably not much that he can do at the moment. It's maybe not something. I mean, he's also a bit thinking about himself. So what can he do himself? It's for the moment, it's probably something that they can't. It's something that they can't change for now as quickly. I mean, they're just two people. Maybe there are some more that maybe know of this, but who knows? He doesn't. So for the moment, it's probably best to just keep going, going on how they fared so far. So there isn't probably anything at the moment that he could do. So his watch is gone. Then I would say Katania at some point gets up, takes over some watch, and then goes back to sleep as well. And the morning comes, and as the sun is rising in the east, both of them, the fire that they made has gone out now, and they there is not much more firewood to be had, so they break off their camp and move on. And since it was Jebran as well that did prepare in the evening before to find their way, again, and in this place, it's him that is taking point, that is going forward. He wants to get into some sort of civilization as quickly as he can for now, mostly to maybe a bit resupply and or to maybe find something to distract himself for the thoughts that he has at the moment. So it's also a bit uncomfortable for him, so maybe he finds a bit more comfort in doing something that he knows of, and that is like bashing maybe some heads or something like that. So he is taking point in undertaking a journey here. So Jebran rolled here a weak hit, which the whole thing, as I said, is like just a complete plains here. There's just nothing much or not much like landmarks to be seen around. There's just the forest behind them where they left off. And it gets smaller and smaller on the horizon as they move away from it, into the direction that Jebran thinks is Whitewood itself, where there is where there might be or where he thinks navigated to. So they get a good day's travel. As I said, they're maybe like 2 days out of Whitewood from their specific space here, but it takes them a good chunk of their supplies that they got. They didn't have, I mean, they mostly got like meat from the boar, so they have that, but other than that, specifically when it comes to making camp for this evening, for them, it's they have to scrape together some wood to make the campfire, as the nights still get maybe as somewhat cold in the night. So it's best to have a fire, also to keep maybe some roaming wild animals at bay. Of course, it's a bad way to keep hidden by doing a fire, but I mean, it's better than to freeze to death or to be beaten or eaten by wild animals. So I would say that I forgo here now to roll again for making camp. It's a bit of a boring thing to do. I think I just go ahead and make another roll for undertaking a journey. What I would say as well, the whole day they don't talk as much to each other. I mean, it's more a silent move ahead. There's maybe at some point some clarifications. Okay, we go here, we go there, or watch out, or wait, maybe just small conversation, but other than that, it's just more of a silent, let's move into one direction, and let's sink in the what happened the last few days. It's more of a that kind of thing, and they just and they make camp here, and then I would say it's as well to Katania's turn to maybe as well lead them. Jebran is still trying to teach as well as he could. I mean, it's still part of their team spirit, if you can call it that. And it's still something. It's also maybe something to that that helps him and her to get a semblance of normal. this is a word. So to get back to normal a bit, to have the same like I said, dynamic team dynamic that they had before they got thrown into this world altering shit that they are in now. It's just to get a semblance back of normal life, but it's hard to not concentrate on that. It's I mean, this things that they experience is just so fresh in their mind. It's not really something that they could just forget here on the spot directly. So they make camp again. This time, I guess it's even more silence here. Where there was maybe a bit of talk on the first camp, it's just completely silence. And then the next day, as I said, it's Katania to lead the way for hopefully the last stretch of the journey. Okay, Katania missed here, which is bad. It's basically it says here that the quest is waylaid by something. And I had a think of it, and what happens is the following, maybe. As they move along the way, and Katania is trying her best to concentrate and find the path ahead. But as I said, the what happened to them a few days ago still lingers in her head, and she's maybe a bit distracted by these thoughts as well, and some parts and some she sings as well a bit on the silver dagger she has, so she's maybe not concentrating as much as she should to find the path, and distracted more easily. It's not hard for them to find a way. It's not that, again, that they get sidetracked so much that they stumble upon the dark forest here, but it's something that it surprises them. Jebran at some point also helps her out to find back the way. He's maybe grumpily saying and pushing her in another direction when she just again like distractedly followed the wrong path, so to speak. And Jebran could see the mile away. No, it's to the left we have to go, and Katania wants to go to the right, and at some point Jebran just pushes her to the left and pushes her forward, and in a way of passive aggressively saying, no, we're going left, it's where it's correctly, just get it together. But by nightfall they make it to Whitewood. It's not so hard to find, especially now that they're outside of a dark enchanted forest that tries to keep them inside. It's now more it was more on the open field, and at some point as Whitewood, as I said way before, is a village that is part that is built near a forest. So on one side there is a forest, on the other side there is plain, so that's shared by these two enclaves, or these two ways of thinking of the forest and the plains enclave. And it, as I said, because there is a forest, it's not so hard to find. It's just at some point the forest gets into view, and it's just a way to navigating to the correct spot where the village actually is. So they get there somewhat at the start of nightfall, And from afar, they could have already seen it's also maybe a bit that helped them navigate a bit. The whole thing here is they saw smoke rising from the village, and that helped them as well to navigate a bit to find the correct spot along the border of the forest where this village would be. But as they come closer and closer to the village, they can see that it's not only smoke that comes from a chimney where they're heating up their small homes. It's also mostly the homes themselves that have burned. That it's just at the border or at some of the I would even say a large part of the houses that are there. They're simple buildings made mostly out of wood, because it's a resource that they have here in a large supply. Because they are in the vicinity of a forest. So, and they could see that a lot of them are just burned to the ground. There is just a small, which is maybe like the foundation that is built with stones, that is just like has this blackened charcoal like substance on the top of it. This bit of a soot that lies above it. There's also maybe even some holes in the stone structure. There's maybe even some of the buildings that haven't been made completely out of stone that are mostly intact. It's just like a bit of soot that came from the other buildings, which are that's on the walls, and these are mostly used as a storage, as grain storage. So that's why they build it out of stone instead of wood. But they can see that the doors that are in front of these storage buildings, that they have been broken open, and there's even like grain half a bit on the ground in front of it, where it seems that they have been stolen out of it or ransacked out of it. And it's the whole sense that they get here that something happened here, that there's a party of bandits or marauders or whatever came into this village and just ransacked it, probably for the search for food or supplies or whatever. And they in their path they burned buildings and who knows what more. This was a full-on raid that befall Whitewood at this place. And yeah, as happy as they are to be back into some sort of civilization, and happy to have found this village by the way of smoke in the sky, it's as well a Pyrrhic victory at this point, to see this ransacked village before them. The villagers here themselves, and just from the because they can see that there's still as they enter the village itself, it has it emanates a heat, especially from the buildings that seem to be still a bit on fire. There's still there's this bright white ash that lies upon multiple buildings that is still hot. There's still embers under these buildings. There's families that are crying in front of this house. It seems that this attack hasn't or happened not so long ago. It wasn't that long ago that this attack seemed to have happened. Maybe a day, maybe two, who knows. And there's people going around that are trying to consolidate the peoples that are crying in front of them. There's people that are starting to begin clearing the spaces here to clear it away, to maybe even try to put out some resting fires that are here. And as they approach the village, they already get, as they approach it from afar, they do not get welcomed with open hands at that point. I mean, they're still in a defensive position here, where they might be trying to attack them if they made a wrong move. There aren't that many warriors here. It's a village that is not built upon warriors and fighting. I mean, there's maybe one or two hunters here, or maybe some hunters here that are that have weapons, most like bows, etc., that were also maybe on the front lines on defending the village, which some of them even might have gotten slain, because they were the ones that tried to fight back. And Jebran could maybe even see as they approach the village that there are people that are already digging some holes, and where they probably plan to bury the dead that have been that came across here. There's maybe even a fire in the middle of the village where they burn the bodies of the raiders that they were able to slay. It's a small heap. There are not so many people. I think there are more people that there's more victims that suffered here from the attack than there were raiders that got killed. As I said, it's mostly a farmer's village, and of course some lumberjacks, etc., that had at least access to defend themselves, but they're not, against a party of raiders that is probably better trained and maybe even better equipped with armor, etc. They didn't have a chance at all against it. And as they approach, there's maybe one or two hunters left in this village that are quick to draw the bow against them as soon as they saw it. And I saw them, and they even shout out a halt to the move. And Jebran, seeing from afar the devastation that has befallen Whitewood, immediately gives a sign to Katania to comply. And he shouts back that they mean no harm, that they seek shelter, but as it looks like that they are in more need than themselves. So at that point, it seems that these two hunters seem to relax a bit to see, okay, it's just these two guys, or these two people, an older man and a young woman. It seems there's not much danger coming out from them, but they're still very close kept eye on them as they approach the village, as they enter the village, and they see the devastation that has been wrought against this village. And they piece together, maybe piece by piece, what I just mentioned, that there's like these buildings that have collapsed, that there is that there's graves being dug, and there's the big pyre of human flesh where some of the raiders are pulled to and put onto the heap of flesh to just be burned away, to not get a ritualistic burial, they're just put into the flames to be maybe cleansed by the fire in the end in their death, but it's not something that they get a burial, a proper burial. And as they stand there in the midst of all this devastation and suffering, this is, I think, where we end tonight's or this session on the episode, and we hear ourselves in the next episode to see what actually happens and how they could help in this village of Whitewood. Hear you then.